Welcome to the Labor Force Podcast. Stories of the working class in a time of renewed labor militancy and awareness that capitalism is a rotten deal. I'm your host, Mike Strukin, proud member of New York State United Teachers. All right, lots on the docket today as we've hit high summer. If you've been anywhere near Boston or the surrounding towns lately, you probably noticed the trash situation is getting out of hand. We're talking about the Republic Services strike, which has been going on for more than 2 weeks now. So let's break down what's happening. Teamsters Local 25, representing about 450 Republic Services workers, have been in a deadlock with the company. They've had multiple rounds of negotiations, even with a federal mediator, but both sides are basically pointing fingers. The union says Republic's wage offer is still below what other companies in the area pay, and they're not budging on health care. The company, on the other hand, claims their offer is actually better than the competition. They're saying it's a 16% immediate wage bump and 43% over 5 years. But the Teamsters say, nope, still not enough, and you're not listening on health insurance. And again, there's the health insurance bugaboo. Why, oh why, do we have to go through this at contract time? To supply health care to all of us is a human right, and nobody has to worry about it any fucking more. And then there's the safety issue. The union saying, hey, we need better conditions. We need more comprehensive benefits. And Republic's like, safety is non-negotiable for us, but the union's not making it a priority. It's just this back and forth. And meanwhile, the trash keeps piling up. In Danvers, they had to shut down a recycling drop-off because so many people showed up. You can feel the frustration from residents. Public officials are even sending letters to Republic basically saying, get your shit together. Of course, it's not just about trash. It's about what happens when essential services break down. People get angry, but they also start asking bigger questions about who's responsible for these services. And the strike is now spread way beyond Massachusetts. We're talking LA, Ohio. Over 2,000 Teamsters are either on strike or honoring picket lines. That's millions of people suddenly dealing with trash piling up. And it's not just a local headache anymore. In LA alone, more than 2 million residents are affected. And in Youngstown, Ohio, there's this massive landfill that usually takes in up to 12 million pounds of trash a day from New York City and New Jersey. With the strike, those trucks and trains can't unload. So you can imagine the logistical nightmare that's creating. Now both sides are really digging in. Republic Services is accusing the Teamsters of everything from dragging out negotiations to criminal behavior. Stuff like harassment, vandalism, even blocking trucks. They've actually filed a legal action against the union. On the flip side, the Teamsters are saying Republic's the one playing dirty, refusing to bargain in good faith, and basically trying to bust the union. They're calling out what they see as union-busting tactics and saying, look, we're not the ones who want garbage piling up, we just want a fair contract. The Youngstown landfill is a perfect example of how interconnected all this is. When one site shuts down, it's not just a local issue, it ripples out. Trash from New York and New Jersey has nowhere to go, and I have got a whole new set of problems. It's like you think of waste collection as this invisible service, but when it stops, suddenly you realize how much of our daily life depends on it running smoothly. The Teamsters leadership is saying, we're not backing down until we get the same wages and benefits as other companies in the area. And Republic's saying, we made a good offer, but the union won't compromise. It's just this national standoff now, and the stakes are getting higher by the day. So with all this going on, you've got public officials stepping in. The Massachusetts State Treasurer, for example, is calling on Republic to show some, quote, responsible corporate leadership and get back to the table. The Secretary of the Commonwealth is even questioning whether private companies should be running these essential services at all. Like maybe there needs to be more state oversight. That's a big deal because it gets at the heart of this whole debate. Should things like trash collection, which are so basic to public health, be left in the hands of private companies? The union leadership, for their part, is really leaning into the idea that these workers are essential. They're saying, look, we're the ones doing the dirty, hard work that keeps cities running. We deserve fair pay, decent benefits, and respect. And you know, when you see the impact of a strike like this, it's hard not to agree that these jobs are absolutely critical. The national implications are huge too. If the Teamsters win here, it could set a precedent, not just in waste collection, but in all kinds of essential services. I mean, it's a tough question. Should essential services be privatized or should they be run by the public? I get the argument for efficiency and competition, but when you see what happens when negotiations break down, when trash piles up and public health is at risk, it makes you wonder if maybe some things are just too important to leave to the market. In other news, a coalition of community groups on Monday announced plans for a farm worker labor strike this week in protest of the Trump administration's ongoing crackdown on undocumented immigration in California. Here's more from KTLA Los Angeles.
Demanding dignity, farm worker advocates gathered at historic Placita Alvera Monday afternoon, calling for a nationwide farm labor strike.
We are not machines. We are not criminals. We are the backbone of our food system, and we are tired of being treated as disposable.
Farm workers are planning to walk off the job to show how much they matter to the U.S. economy for a 3-day strike starting Wednesday. The call to action follows last week's massive immigration raid at a cannabis facility in Camarillo, leading to violent clashes between protesters and law enforcement. One worker even plunged to his death trying to get away. Agents detained more than 300 undocumented immigrants. ICE says some with violent criminal backgrounds and at least 14 children were rescued from potential exploitation. But despite growing public backlash, Trump officials say these raids are the new normal, vowing to aggressively ramp up deportations thanks to $150 billion in additional funding from Trump's recently passed signature spending bill.
Leave us alone, because we're coming over here to war. We're not coming over here to rob. We're not coming over here to do things wrong.
The White House is now appealing an LA federal judge's temporary order limiting an agent's ability to detain people without reasonable suspicion beyond their race, ethnicity, and occupation, blocking them from carrying out arrests at places like car washes and Home Depots.
I don't think any federal judge can dictate immigration policy. That's a matter for Congress and for the president, and I know the Department of Justice is going to litigate this.
Now, the Trump administration hopes that a federal appeals court strikes down this injunction. In the meantime, the farm worker strike is set to start this Wednesday and last through Friday. That's the latest from downtown LA. Carlos Salcedo, KTLA 5 News.
So the recent wave of ICE raids targeting immigrant farm workers in California and across the country is a deeply troubling escalation in the war on the very people who make America's food system function. The death of Jamie Alanis, that 57-year-old undocumented farm worker who fell to his death while fleeing an immigration raid in Camarillo, is a tragic and avoidable outcome of aggressive and militarized enforcement tactics. Alanis wasn't a threat to anyone. He was a hardworking father trying to provide for his family. His death should be a wake-up call about the human cost of criminalizing laborers, whose only crime is working to survive. This is U.S. public support for immigration reaches a record high amid Trump mass deportation efforts, as reported by Common Dreams.
American support for immigration in the United States is at a record high despite the fact that American voters mere months ago elected a president who ran on enacting the largest deportation operation in the country's history. A new poll from Gallup shows that 79% of Americans think that immigration is a good thing for the country, which is the highest number ever recorded in Gallup's 24-year history of measuring U.S. voters' attitudes on the immigration. Furthermore, the Gallup poll shows that 85% of Americans now support allowing immigrants, who were brought to the U.S. illegally as children, the chance to become U.S. citizens if they meet certain requirements over a period of time, and 78% support allowing immigrants living in the U.S. illegally the chance to become U.S. citizens if they meet certain requirements over a period of time.
So there you have it. We can meet in the middle and compromise on this issue. That's where the broad majority of us are. There is absolutely no need for these extreme tactics. And in our last update, nearly 2,000 nonprofit legal services workers across 11 chapters of the Association of Legal Advocates and Attorneys, ALAA, UAW Local 2325, are escalating a coordinated contract campaign after months of stalled negotiations. Workers at the Goddard Riverside Law Project began striking July 10th, with hundreds more at NILAG and the Urban Justice Center who are set to strike July 15th. Followed by workers at Brock's Defenders, Appellate Advocates, and others on July 18th. Legal Aid Society Attorneys United, representing the largest group, may also strike starting July 18th. The union emphasizes that striking is a last resort aimed at securing fair workplace conditions and sustaining high-quality legal representation for vulnerable New Yorkers.
Striking is not easy. I can tell you after 4 days of walking thousands of steps in the heat, of yelling our lungs out for hours, it will take a toll. But I will tell you something that is infinitely harder. And that is walking out of housing court with a settlement in hand, hoping that you can keep your client with that settlement in their house for another year or maybe 2. But knowing that you didn't have the capacity to find a permanent solution to their housing issues. To know that you didn't have the time to connect them with the resources that they needed to stay in their home. It is infinitely harder than striking to say goodbye to a colleague because even on a staff attorney's salary, she can't afford childcare in this city. It is infinitely harder than striking to look across the lunch table at new faces and remember who they replaced. Because despite years of dedicated service to our clients and our organizations, they were left to burn out. Our former colleagues were left to burn up and burn out. It is infinitely harder than striking to look at those new faces and wonder which one is going to burn out next. That is hard. Striking is not easy, but standing back and watching as our organizations, our sector, and our city fall apart because desperately needed services that we provide are underfunded, with management that has the ability but not the desire to turn to the city and ask for more money. That is what is difficult for us, and that is what we refuse to do any longer.
Now let's get into something that's honestly right at the heart of what this show's about. How working people are getting by, or sometimes not getting by, in a country that keeps making it harder. An opinion piece was published in the New York Times this week entitled, "A New Era of Hunger Has Begun." The author, Tracy Kidder, has been awarded the Pulitzer Prize, the National Book Award, and the Robert F. Kennedy Award, as well as the Bronze Star for his military service in the Vietnam War. Among other books of nonfiction, he's the author of The Soul of a New Machine, Mountains Beyond Mountains, and most recently, Rough Sleepers. That last one is the powerful story of an inspiring doctor who made a difference by helping to create a program to care for Boston's homeless community. He puts us in Easthampton, Massachusetts. It's this old mill town out in the western part of the state, and it's kind of a microcosm for what's happening all over the country. You walk down one street, and it's like stepping back in time. Old workers' row houses, these brick buildings that look like they've seen 100 winters. But then you turn a corner, and suddenly you're in the middle of a little renaissance. Old factories turn into art galleries, restaurants, shops. On a Friday night, the sidewalks are packed for art walks, people out enjoying themselves. But come Monday morning, it's a different crowd. Downtown's quiet, and there's this line forming outside a 19th century brick building, the Easthampton Community Center and Food Pantry. Now, this food pantry has become a lifeline. Before the pandemic, they were serving about 1,000 families. Now, over 5,000. 5 times as many people, just in a few years. And it's not just folks who are out of work, or what people sometimes picture when they think of food pantries. It's working families, people with jobs, seniors who work their whole lives, but Social Security just doesn't stretch far enough. The Easthampton Pantry is just one node in this massive network of food assistance across the country. The big player here is SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, what used to be called food stamps. About 50 million Americans rely on SNAP, and it provides 9 times more food than all the food banks in the country combined. So when people talk about food banks picking up the slack, it's just not possible. They're a supplement, not a replacement. And then you've got people like Robin Bielecki running the show in Easthampton. She's been at it for 25 years, Started as a volunteer, now she's the only paid staffer. Last year, she and her crew handed out 2.5 million pounds of food. She works every day except Christmas, and she's still there because things keep getting worse. Kidder describes a woman grabbing Robin by the shoulders, just desperate, saying, "We depend on you, and you're not going to have enough food." And honestly, that's not an overreaction. There's a stereotype that people using food pantries are lazy or gaming the system, but the reality is so much messier. There was this one guy who lost his job because his company moved out of state, and he's blaming himself. "I can't feed my kids. I'm a failure." Or the woman driving an SUV that someone thought was too nice for a food line. Turns out her husband just left her with 4 kids and no money, and that car was about to be repossessed. It's working people, people with health issues, people who just hit a rough patch. And the need is everywhere. There's no county in America where hunger isn't a problem. Now we have Trump's one big beautiful bill that cuts $1.2 trillion from social programs over the next decade. SNAP alone is losing nearly $200 billion. And it's not just SNAP. Medicaid is getting hit too, with stricter work requirements and all those bureaucratic hurdles that are designed to make it harder for people to get help. The Congressional Budget Office says more than 2 million people will lose their SNAP benefits, and almost 12 million will lose health insurance. That's on top of the 26 million already uninsured. Ms. Bielecki's job is becoming more difficult. On distribution days, the center usually closes from noon until 3 p.m. But on Monday, July 1st, just a few days before the big beautiful bill became law, the line was so long and unrelenting that Ms. Bielecki and her volunteers served up groceries for 10 hours straight. More than 450 families came through that day. It was as if they were stocking up on food for a hurricane. A few days later, in a cheery voice, Ms. Bielecki said that what she'd been telling herself for months might finally be true. Maybe now things really couldn't get worse. "Every day I'm in awe of the fact that we can't get this madness stopped," she said. Kidder then eloquently explains, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who rarely votes for the bill, once said, "Go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it." That's my worldview. Perhaps he should reread the 25th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. There, Jesus warns his disciples of what he will tell the world's ungenerous people on Judgment Day. "Depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not welcome me. Naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me." The damned ask, when they had failed to do all that for him, Jesus replies, "Truly I say to you, as you did not do it to the least of these, you did not do it to me." So what happens? Food banks, which are already stretched, are going to be asked to do even more with less. And the people who fall through the cracks? Well, they're just supposed to figure it out, I guess. There's this whole debate about what the safety net should be, or if it should even exist. But when you see people lining up for food, people who are doing everything right and still can't make ends meet, it's hard not to feel like we're failing each other.
Morning, guys. Happy Monday. Come to work with me as a 25-year-old working 2 jobs plus owning a small cleaning company. Today I open Dunkin' Donuts from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. Then get ready with me at the Dunkin' Donuts bathroom for my second job, which is a dental office for 8 to 5 as a dental receptionist. So come open the store with me. I'm gonna set my drink. Damn, this music is hella loud. I'm all done here with my shift. It is currently 7:05. So let's go ahead and go get ready here in the bathroom for my AC5. Today's scrubs of the day, because you guys already know Monday and Tuesdays we have to wear black. So I got my black scrubs. These are new, you guys. Look how cute these are. And then the grub. The scrub shirt. I'm gonna be wearing this cheetah print long sleeve under scrubs. I don't even have to do too much in my face just because I got my lashes on. So all I gotta do is put a little bit of concealer, a little bit of mascara. My hair is somewhat done. I don't know, honestly, I don't know what I want to do with my hair, but I did bring my spray and my mousse. So I think I'm just gonna put my hair slick back because I don't got time. Let's start off with my makeup. I forgot my concealer, I forgot my setting spray, like, I need to go get my eyebrows done, I need to wax my mustache, like, I'm going on vacation soon, so I'm super excited. I need to get all that. I need to get my nails done, like, what is this? Ew, like, what is that? I've had these nails for about 2 months. I forgot my foundation brush. I only got my blush and this. What am I supposed to do, guys? How can I blend all this with just using this? It's okay, it's just a Monday, like, who cares? I think I blended everything, so this will do. I think what really helped is the lashes, like, but this is everything for my makeup, so let's head out now. Okay, so I got myself an iced coffee. I always make my regular, which is just a caramel with cream and sugar. What's it, you guys? I love my caramel iced coffee. Like, I made myself some ham sliders, probably all cold and crusty because I made this after clocking out. I also got myself some blue munchkins. And some glaze. Oh, it's literally a rough Monday morning today. I forgot my concealer, my makeup brush, setting spray. Maybe I forgot my work bag that carries my notebooks, my pens, and all these other things and everything else that keeps me in track of where I left off on Friday. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna have to figure something out today. But yeah, guys, I literally forgot my homework bag at home. So let's go ahead and clock in before we run late. So let's go.
Meanwhile, Gen Z is hustling, juggling 2, sometimes 3 jobs, and somehow still finding the energy to post about it on TikTok. I mean, I get tired just thinking about it. But for a lot of young people, this isn't just about ambition or chasing dreams. It's about survival. Take Cindy Dionisico, for example, who you heard in that clip. She's got this routine where she wakes up at 3:30 in the morning and heads out to her first job at Dunkin' Donuts. Then she's off to her dental receptionist gig. And on top of that, she runs a small cleaning company. And she's filming all of this for her 113,000 TikTok followers. She's not just working, she's building a community online, sharing the grind, and honestly, finding some solidarity in it. And it's not just Cindy. There's a whole wave of Gen Z workers out there, taking on multiple jobs or side gigs. It's not because they want to necessarily, it's because they have to. Student debt, wages that haven't kept up with the cost of living, rent that's just, don't even get started on rent. Some of these 20-somethings are working 2 jobs just to afford a tiny apartment in some places. When I was their age, you could get by on 1 job, maybe split rent with a buddy, but now it's a different world. And of course, it's not just about the money. There's a sense, once again, of I'm doing everything right and I'm still barely scraping by. That's a tough pill to swallow. But what's interesting is how they're turning to TikTok, not just to vent, but to find each other to say, hey, I'm tired too, but I'm still here. Now let's talk about the side hustle thing, because it's not just about clocking in and out anymore. People like Kavan Frank Morrell and Jane Esang are using TikTok to share their stories. Sometimes it's about working 2 jobs. Sometimes it's about trying to save 60 grand before turning 24. Kavan's got these videos, day in the life working 2 jobs, and they're getting millions of views. And yeah, there's some money in that, thanks to TikTok's creator rewards, but it's also about showing the reality behind the hustle. Jane Esang, she's got 2 full-time jobs, marketing in a call center, and she's all about this FIRE movement. Financial independence, retire early. She realized after a couple internships that she couldn't just do the corporate grind for 45 years. Who can blame her? She started posting about her journey, and it turns out a lot of people relate. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. She talked about getting these intense headaches, and it took a vacation, literally just seeing the sun and getting some rest, for her to realize it was all stress. There's this double-edged sword with social media, right? On one hand, it's a place to find support, to see you're not alone. But on the other, it can make you feel like you're not doing enough, or that you should be working yourself to the bone just to keep up. Some folks say it glamorizes overwork, makes it look cool to be exhausted all the time. I don't know, maybe I'm old school, but I worry about that. Does it help with financial anxiety or just make it worse? I guess it depends on who you ask. And then there's the money side, monetizing your hustle, turning your daily grind into content. It's a way to make a little extra, sure, but it's also a lot of pressure. You're not just working 2 jobs, you're performing it for an audience. That's a lot to carry, especially when you're already stretched thin. So why is all this happening? Well, nearly a third of Gen Z and millennials are worried about things like homelessness or not being able to meet basic needs. That's not just a little anxiety. That's existential stuff. And it's not coming out of nowhere. A lot of these young folks grew up during the 2008 recession, saw their parents lose jobs, watched the safety nets get thinner and thinner. Now they're starting out with more debt, fewer guarantees, and costs that just keep going up. Economic inequality is fucking everywhere. Gen Z is looking at a world where the gap between rich and poor is bigger than it's been in 100 years. No wonder there's so much anxiety. And yet, there's this push to build good habits, save early, invest if you can. Some in the financial world say, if you're used to living cheap, keep it up and save what you can. But that's a tough sell when rent eats up half your paycheck or more. Anyway, that's where we're at. Gen Z is hustling, not just for the grind, but for a shot at security, maybe even a little freedom. It's not easy, but they're finding ways to support each other in this capitalist hellscape, whether it's on TikTok or in real life. So there we have it, a whirlwind tour through the mounting garbage on Boston's curbs, the grinding gears of stalled labor negotiations, the fear-gripping immigrant farm workers just for doing their jobs, the legal aid workers fighting for dignity and sustainability, the quiet desperation lining up outside food pantries, and the exhausted, digitally savvy Gen Zers juggling side hustles in a rigged economy. What ties it all together is simple. Working people across industries, across generations, trying to hold things together while the systems that are supposed to support them keep falling short. The garbage piling up isn't just physical, it's symbolic. When essential work is treated as disposable, we all end up wading through the consequences. Whether it's a sanitation worker in Danvers, a paralegal at Legal Aid, a farm worker in California, or a Gen Z barista filming their 3 a.m. routine, what they're all asking for isn't luxury, it's fairness, safety, dignity, a shot at something better than burnout and precarity. So the question we're left with isn't just who picks up the trash or who stocks the food pantry or who works 2 jobs to scrape by. It's who we're willing to fight for and how long we'll keep waiting for someone else to fix what we already know is broken. Well, that does it for this episode. If you like what you hear, give a rate or review on your favorite podcast app to help me grow. I'm proud to be part of the Labor Radio Podcast Network, with over 200 labor shows you can check out at laborradionetwork.org. This has been the Labor Force Podcast. I'm Mike Strukin. Solidarity, always.